guys, it's Kelly here, and today I'm going to be using some new products from W+9 as well as some old. So I'm going to be using the winter greenery, the modern roses. What are those leaves called? Are they called fall leaves? I don't know, I'll link them below. But these are the two new products. So this is the Lots of Love die and the Lots of Love background die. This one has the cute little sentiments in here. It also has some extra little heart dies. And then the background has a full background, but then it also has a like a little additional strip of hearts that you can use as well. I didn't cut mine apart, but they are meant to be cut apart. Right now in the W+9 shop, if you buy both of these together, you actually get 10% off. So that comes off when you put them in your cart. So yeah, let's get into the card making. This is a longer video because we made 3 cards. So first things first, I used the Lots of Love background die to cut out a piece of watercolor paper. I wanted to give my Karin markers another shot, and so I figured that this would be a good time to do it. Because my watercolor paper is thicker, I'm using the Canson Monteval watercolor paper. Most of my hearts stayed intact, and so I just left them lay in there because I was actually going to be using the inside hearts and not the outside hearts. And then I cut it 2 more times. I cut it out of just regular Nina, that's what you see here, and then I cut it a 3rd time out of vellum. So this one, I didn't pop out all the pieces parts because I wasn't sure if I was going to need any of the insides yet, so I just kind of laid it to the side and then moved on with my stamping. For my stamping, I am again stamping on the same watercolor paper, and I'm using the Modern Roses. I stamped every stamp in this stamp set. Say that 3 times fast. I cannot. I can barely say it one time. You guys heard how much I had to slow down to even pronounce it correctly. So I stamped every stamp in the stamp set with the intention of using all of the pieces parts on at least 2 of the cards. The 3rd card is where I'm going to bring in those other leaf sets that you saw. So I'm stamping these down. I'm actually using clear embossing ink. I can't remember if I used Versamark, if I used the Honeybee one, either or. They're both, I use them interchangeably, whatever one I happen to grab. And you can tell that my stamps were dirty. When I open up my Misty, you're going to see that like 2 of them have a blackish outline. I'm going to be heat embossing in white, which will be opaque, and we'll cover that up, so it doesn't really bother me. It's fine. So I'm going to put those down. I'm going to heat emboss in white, just because I thought that that would be a kind of like a fun, different way to try my watercolors, that I did not previously try, since I've only used these things like 1 time. And that was whatever, the video that we did a week or so ago. So once that's done, I'm going to scoop up my extra embossing powder back into the container and then heat set this. Now I always heat up my heat gun, like while I'm doing all of this part, is my heat tool is heating up. So that way when I take it to the paper, it pretty much starts melting almost immediately, and it limits the warping on the paper caused from the heat tool. So once I have that all done, I did do 2 of the other leaves the same way, but I wanted to show you, just in case, maybe you're totally in love with this particular leaf or image, whatever it is, that you wanted to be able to do something like this with. You can use salad stamps. Now, I really loved one of the leaves from the Winter Greenery set, and so that is why I chose to use it. I thought it was a really pretty leaf. I thought it would look nice with the other leaves that I had going on here. So these ones I'm going to do the same way, where I'm just stamping them down in Versamark, and then I'm going to heat emboss them in white. But then after I'm done with that portion of it, and I can't remember if I left that whole, I might have left the whole thing in, editing in the middle of the night, I can't always be sure what I'm going to get when I sit down here to do the voiceover, because sometimes in the middle of doing other things, I'm also editing, and it's hard for my brain to separate them. So I did film the whole thing, and leave it in, even though you just saw me do this with some other leaves. So once these are done, then I'm going to put it back in my MISTI, and I'm going to stamp that solid stamp. Now, I chose to stamp with Distress Oxides. They also reactivate with water. And so I knew that I could just put the watercolor right over top of it, and it really wouldn't be an issue. Distress inks would work the same way, but they don't stamp quite as nice as oxides do. So that's why I chose to use the oxides. You obviously could use anything, or you could just use a lighter color ink, period, and then just do your watercoloring right over top of it. That's how a lot of us do no line watercoloring anyhow. So here we're getting into the watercoloring. I will show you quite a bit of it at a regular speed, just so you can kind of see what I'm doing, and then we are going to speed some of it up. So one of the things that I didn't get to try with the last watercolor video was taking my paintbrush to the tip of my marker. And it works really well, guys. It works really, really well to pick up pigment and to drop it back in. The other thing that I did not try previously was after my paper was wet, taking the marker back to the same wet area. And that also worked really well. But if you're going to do this, just make sure you're prepared for a lot of color to be put down. If you're going for a softer look, that particular technique of wetting the paper and then taking the brush to the paper might not be for you, because it is really strong color that goes down. So when I was picturing the roses in my head, I knew I wanted there to be a lot of color variation. I wanted them to be kind of fun and bright and playful. And so I started with putting down the pinks and then adding in a little bit of yellow. But then also I added in some purple, and then there were some petals that I did purple and I added in blue, just so that there would be kind of like a multitude of colors that would kind of make up this rose and make it look obviously not natural. These flowers do not appear in nature, but just kind of make it look more eclectic and fun with all of these different bright colors. I'm doing the same technique that I typically do when I want to have a lot of control with watercolors, and that is I'm putting down a line of color with the marker, and then I am getting my paintbrush wet. Through practice, I know how much moisture I need to pick up, but until you are comfortable with how much water to pick up, after you rinse your brush off, I would recommend blotting the base of your bristles, not the tip. You want moisture at the tip of your paintbrush, but the base of it, just suck up all the extra moisture so that you have more control over how much water you're putting down. And sometimes you'll still see me do that if my brush is particularly wet. So now we're getting to the point where things are a little bit more sped up, just so that we can move this along. Even though I colored all of them, and I did film all of them, this is the only one that I showed. We're already at 26 minutes for this video, so it's, quite long because we're making so many cards and we're adding in the watercoloring. So I showed you one flower and a couple of leaves before we moved on to the next. So let's get into story time. Couple of things to talk about and discuss. Well, I guess what are we gonna see? It's so hard. I was talking to my girlfriend Wida, and she was like, we were talking about the Patreon thing, and she was like, you could do like, craft chats or whatever, coffee and crafts. And I was like, yeah, I totally could. And she was like, and you don't even need to like plan it like you do your voiceovers. Just get on there and start, chit-chatting for, just a couple of minutes. And I was like, Wida, girl, I don't plan my voiceovers. I just sit down and whatever comes out my mouth comes out my mouth. Like I don't plan it. No, I do not. um, because that would require time that I do not have. So there is no plan. We're out here just winging it every day of my life. But um, speaking of the Patreon, so here are some things after talking to a couple of my friends in the industry, talking to a couple of friends that used to be in the industry but aren't anymore, but still are crafters. We've whittled it down to a couple of things, and I want to get your opinion, because we're making these decisions together. There are certain things that I want to be able to do, but I'm not like I'm not just doing this by myself. You know what I'm saying? So in order to make the best decision for everybody involved. Okay, so let's ballpark some ideas here. Here, this is everything all painted up, and then I'm going to move on to the other piece of watercolor paper, and I'm going to show you another leaf, and then I'm going to show you how to watercolor this oxide one, which really, honestly, is not any different. You just have to follow the outline of the color that's already there. And these blended in pretty well, even though they didn't have the embossing around them, because the dyes create that white border anyway. Okay, so kicking around doing just a one tier Patreon for now. But like you need to get something for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want people to just be like, oh, here's my $5. I want them to be rewarded for something else. Oh, wait, before we get into the Patreon, I'm all over the place today. For those of you, I had told you quite some time ago, like for those of you who did the Buy Me a Coffee, I am going to be doing a, just a thank you. Do you know what I mean? I want to give you something extra as a thank you. I know that you did it not expecting anything, and that makes me want to give you something all that much more. So I will be doing a question and answer live video that will be posted only on my Buy Me a Coffee. It'll be an unlisted link that you can go and you can view it. I will do it live, but then I will keep it posted so that if you miss it, I haven't decided a day or a time yet. So if you could share what works better for you. What works better for me right now is during the day, but I'm open to what during the day means. I'm open to a 9 a.m. I'm open to a noon. So you tell me what works for you, but also leave me any questions that you have that you would like me to answer, so that when we're doing this live, I kind of already have an idea in my head of questions to get through. So that's that. Now back to the Patreon. So, doing one tier, so for, $5 a month, and here are some ideas. I'm not saying that all of these will be included, and I'm not saying that all of these will be in the first tier. Maybe some of them will be included in another tier, but we're talking about a $5 tier. So, some of the options are, first, early access to videos. So, maybe the first 24 hours of videos posted, only you would be able to view them. Behind the scenes photos. So when I'm working at my desk, and, working on up and coming projects that other people don't get to see, those would be posted as well. Being in a drawing at least once a month for a giveaway. And then possibly twice a month, because I think maybe we could do a giveaway of some actual product, and then we could do a giveaway of a card. So those are both options. That you have a chance at these kind of giveaways. Another one is, like I said when I was talking with Weta, the crafty kind of coffee and crafts, talk about my life, just quick snippet, almost like a vlog. So when I'm in my house, when I'm, running out to the store, if there's something that happens that's noteworthy, or, something that I would share, then just very quickly filming a little, 2 to 5 minute something video and sharing them there. And the other one would be like first crack at like mystery boxes, because they do sell very quickly. Um, we know that that's true. Um, so I probably will. I'm not sure if I'll do that with the ones that I already have prepared, um, or if I probably won't. I'm going to be honest with you. I probably won't hold on to them. I'll probably just do these regular, and then once, if we decide to do the Patreon, that I'll hold the next set of 75 for those, so that the people who subscribe to the Patreon can get those. You guys have any other ideas? I'm totally open. If you're like, no, I don't like that, I don't feel like it's worth $5 a month, or yes, I do like that, or no, maybe that's too much, maybe you should save that for another tier. Like, y'all, I am open. I'm open because I've never done this before. And you, as crafters, know what you are and you are not willing to spend your hard-earned money on. I totally understand that. I totally get that. We're all out here earning a paycheck, and we have to be conscientious of where our money goes. And maybe Patreon isn't something that you would ever do. Like, you're like, I just can't justify the expense. And that's fine too. No, there's no hard feelings. I've just had multiple people tell me that I should start a Patreon, and so it's something that I feel like I should at least look into. Back to the card. So here, I've glued down the Nina die cut to Nina card base, and I'm going to take my little watercolor hearts and fill them in. Now, I tell you all the time that you got to be adaptable, you got to be fluid. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and you just gotta, make it work or adapt it and change it so that it works. Here, my original game plan was to fill in these cute little watercolor hearts, to put this lots of love sentiment on it, and then accent it with one of the roses and some leaves. I didn't like it. Once I got it all together, I was like, ooh, girl, it's too much. It's too much. It's much too much. And so, because of that, I just changed the way that I was going to build the card. I made it a much simpler design, but ultimately I'm still happy with it because the hearts still give it that pop of color that I'm looking for it to have. And I love the bold black with the bright colors. And so the sentiment gives me that, and the watercolor hearts in the background give me the bright colors. And so ultimately I was happy with the card design, and I just moved the rose over to another card, which also worked out fine. Worst case scenario, I could have done like a fourth card with it. But that's just, sometimes you just got to roll with it because it doesn't come together the way that you see it in your head. Okay, so back to the conversation about what we're doing. I also recently started looking at rebranding. What does that mean? It sounds very pretentious to me. I'm not going to lie to you. It sounds like, oh, I'm rebranding. But really all that means is I've had a logo, I've had a blog, I've had the end screen at my videos. Like, I've had them for years. And I was wonderfully blessed that a friend of mine in the industry also did graphic design. That was Nina Marie, and she made all of those for me, and I paid her for that service. But I've had it for almost 10 years now, and it feels a little bit dated, and it feels a little bit not like myself anymore. And so I started playing around with coming up with a new logo, and then from the logo building on those other things. I'm also looking at possibly starting my blog back up again. So in the blog, I haven't posted consistently. I'm still part of Blog Hops, and so of course those still go on there. When I'm working with a company and they invite me to be a part of a Blog Hop, like, of course I still post those there. But it's been pretty stagnant for quite a long time because I just didn't have enough time to keep up with everything. And I have looked at what other people are doing. And because I had a real hard time when I was doing the blog, I had a real hard time not explaining everything that I was doing, even though I explained it in the video. Yeah, so I was like doing the same job twice, and I couldn't really stop myself. So I have looked at other people's blogs, and I see the purpose of the blog. The blog is like a landing page for people who maybe find your things on Pinterest, to go see like what the products are. It gives you another place to link to where the products are so that people can find them, instead of just being like, this is a beautiful card and I really love the items on it, but I have no idea where to locate them. So I see the purpose in it, even though I don't think people are reading blogs like they used to anymore. I do still see where it has its worth. And so I am considering bringing the blog back, but really more is like a landing spot, for announcements, for sales, for, you know, like these are the things that I use, and not so much a kind of chatting blog as it was previously. Now, I'm kind of a wordy person. I'm sure you've noticed that after watching a few of my videos. I'm a bit chatty. My report card definitely read, talks too much to neighbors in school. It totally did. So I can't promise that it'll stay that way, but that is my goal. My goal is to make it a more efficient place. But that's, again, in the works a little ways. It's in the works a little ways. So there's just a lot of things going on. You know, we have been readjusting our schedules, and then there's something else will come up, and then we'll have to find a new routine, and it is like that all of the time. It's just crazy. And so now I'm hoping that there will be a little bit more consistency in the way that I approach, probably not life, because I am a hot mess. I am a dumpster fire. I am fine with that. That is the way that God made me, and God loves me, even though I never have anything together. Never. My husband, not so much maybe, but Jesus loves me, and I'm cool with that. So, like, I'm just hoping that getting into some sort of kind of routine will, do that. The other thing that I've been kicking around is doing lives. I did them on Periscope years ago. I thoroughly enjoyed doing them. I loved that it gave me a way to connect with you guys. But again, if I do the lives, before I used to do them at night after Peanut went to bed. But now the time that I would have to do them would be during the day. And I don't know how that will work with scheduling. So that's another thing. If you would like to see the lives, if you would like to be party to the lives, then please let me know what time that you think that would work best for you. And I am leaning toward, just because my following is larger on YouTube than it is on Facebook, I am leaning more toward doing the lives on YouTube. Oh, that was the other thing that we talked about for the Patreon is, you know, doing the lives. If you're part of the Patreon, then I would give you the opportunity to vote between maybe one or two or three stamp sets that you would like to see used in the live. And so you would kind of drive, you know, the imagery that was used or the type of technique that was used. That's another thing that we talked about for the Patreon. You know, just having a little bit more kind of input. But yeah, so I would like to do the lives. I would like to get back to them and kind of, you know, be able to reconnect. I would probably shoot for once a week for maybe like an hour or so, just so you can kind of get an idea of, you know, for time management. I can't promise they'll always only be an hour, just because my style of card making does tend to take a little while longer because of the coloring mediums. But yeah, so that's that. Here on this last card, I put the vellum down on the back. This card came together exactly as I had envisioned it. This was the one that started them all. That, yeah, like just using those big, bold, colorful roses, having the kind of more subtle background, a bolder sentiment. This one was the driver for all of the other passenger cards that came about as we were making these. So I can't leave any shimmer alone. I put some shimmer on my roses. I didn't really notice making any difference to the watercolor that I had put down, which I'm grateful for. And then that's it. That's all 3 cards. So if you're interested in these sentiments or dies, I would encourage you to go over to the W+9 website to get that 10% off. And thank you guys so much for spending your time with me. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.